A simple woman mocked at luxury car dealership. Returns next day with billionaire husband who buys every car in stock. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. It was a bright morning in Atlanta. The city buzzed with early commuters and the hum of promise. Sunlight poured through the glass-fronted facade of the most prestigious car dealership in Buckhead, glinting off the hoods of luxury vehicles inside. The glass doors of the dealership whispered open, spilling a soft chime into the air as Maya stepped inside. Her presence was quiet, almost uncertain, but her eyes took in every detail. The interior was immaculate, floors gleaming like marble under the lights, and a dozen high-end cars displayed like museum art. Sleek curves, polished chrome, and leather interiors stretched out before her in a showroom of impossible dreams. But it wasn't just the cars that caught her attention. It was the way the room shifted the moment she walked in. Maya paused just inside the entrance. The door clicked shut behind her, cutting off the outside world. She stood still for a beat, soaking in the opulence. Her eyes darted around in quiet wonder, catching the curves of a silver coupe, the matte black beast in the center, and finally, her favorite, the candy-red convertible position near the glass wall. Her fingers clutched the strap of her fabric purse, worn soft from years of use. She looked down briefly at her thrift store dress, a faded floral print, and her old sneakers, stained from walking through the city. But then she lifted her chin, pushing aside the quiet voice in her head that told her she didn't belong. She took a step forward. Each car gleamed under the spotlights like a dream. Her steps were tentative, careful, but each one carried more curiosity than the last. As she neared the red convertible, her breath caught. It was beautiful. The kind of car that made time slow down. She reached out and touched the window, fingers brushing the cool glass. For a moment, in her mind, she was behind the wheel, wind dancing through her hair, a city skyline flashing past in the rearview mirror. It was a fragile, quiet dream, but hers nonetheless. A voice shattered it. "You lost." She turned sharply. A man in a crisp blazer stood a few feet away, arms folded, a smirk tugging at his lips. His name tag read Derek. His eyes flicked down to her shoes, then back to her face with an arched brow. Maya began, caught off guard. "Just looking." Derek chuckled, not warmly. "Of course you are." He stepped closer, just enough to tower slightly. "These models start at 200 grand. Maybe check out the used lot down the street. They've got some decent old Toyotas." Maya's lips parted, but the words tangled on her tongue. Her heart thudded against her ribs. She wasn't naive. She'd felt out of place walking in, but she hadn't expected this. The dismissal, the sarcasm, the way his voice rose, just loud enough for nearby staff to hear. One of them glanced over, then turned away with a grin. She swallowed, throat tightening. "I didn't say I was buying. I just—" "Exactly," Derek interrupted, flashing a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "No harm in dreaming, I guess." It wasn't just what he said, it was how. The precision of his tone, the smugness layered under feigned politeness. Maya looked around. No one intervened. No one even seemed surprised. Her cheeks burned. Not from anger, but something heavier, humiliation. She had been foolish to come in here, thinking she could enjoy a small fantasy without being crushed by reality. What had she expected? That she could walk among the elite and not be noticed for what she wasn't? She nodded slightly, not trusting her voice, and turned toward the exit. As she stepped back into the chill of the afternoon, the first drops of rain tapped against her skin. They felt oddly fitting. Her sneakers squelched on the pavement as she walked away from the glowing showroom, her reflection distorted in the glossy windows beside her. Behind her, the dealership resumed its rhythm. Salesmen chatted, phones rang, deals were made. And just like that, she was forgotten, just a shadow who didn't belong, disappearing into the rain. But what Derek hadn't seen, what none of them had, was the fire that flickered behind Maya's hurt. The way her jaw had clenched when she reached the street. The way her eyes narrowed, not with defeat, but with something brewing. Quiet strength. Because Maya may have walked out alone, wasn't all about her. The sky outside had darkened by the time Maya reached home. The soft hum of rain followed her as she stepped inside, shutting the door behind her like closing off the weight of the world. She stood still in the hallway, the silence of the house wrapping around her. It was warm, familiar, safe, yet tonight, it felt hollow. Her shoes left damp marks on the wooden floor as she walked to the bedroom. She didn't turn on the lights. She didn't need them. Her body moved on memory. She sat at the edge of the bed, posture stiff, hands clasped in her lap as though holding herself together by will alone. And then it cracked. A quiet sob broke the air, and suddenly the room echoed with the sound of her pain. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. Maya hunched forward, elbows on her knees, face buried in her palms. It wasn't just about the dealership. It was the buildup of every time she'd been overlooked, dismissed, made to feel less, simply for not fitting someone else's version of enough. The tears came in waves, hot and quiet, as if her body was finally releasing what her pride had kept bottled up. Then her phone buzzed. She didn't move at first. The screen lit the room for a moment, flashing a name that tugged at her heart, Arjun. She wiped her face quickly, sniffled, and forced herself upright. Her thumb hovered over the answer button. She considered letting it ring out, pretending she was asleep. But Arjun always knew. She answered. "Hey, love," she said, voice lighter than it had any right to be. There was a pause, just long enough to know he'd heard the crack beneath her words. "You okay?" Arjun's voice was soft, but alert. "Of course," Maya replied, trying to smile. "Just tired. Long day." Another pause. "Longer." "Maya." She bit her lip. That tone, gentle but firm, always made her feel like he could see through the phone, through her silence. Her shoulders sagged. "I went to the dealership," she murmured. A breath. "The one you've been talking about?" She nodded, forgetting for a moment he couldn't see her. "Yeah. And?" Silence. Her throat tightened. "I shouldn't have." "I wasn't." Her voice broke. "I just wanted to see the red convertible. I wasn't trying to buy anything. I was just looking." Arjun didn't speak, but she could feel the tension building on his end. "They laughed," she continued. "The salesman looked at me like I was trash. Told me I didn't belong. Told me to go down the street where the used cars are." Her voice wavered. "I didn't even say anything. I just stood there. Let him humiliate me. I walked out like I deserved it." "Maya." Arjun's voice was a whisper now, but beneath it lay a quiet fire. "I don't know why it hurts so much," she said. "I mean, I do know. It's because I felt small. Like no matter how kind I try to be, how honest or humble, it's never enough. Not in places like that." Arjun didn't respond immediately. She imagined him somewhere in a hotel room, pacing slowly, running a hand through his hair the way he always did when he was thinking deeply. "Maya," he said finally, and his voice had changed. It wasn't angry. It was still calm, but sharp, intentional. "We'll fix that tomorrow." She blinked. "Fix what?" "You'll see." "Arjun, I need you to trust me," he said. "Can you do that?" She hesitated, her brows knitting. "Yes, of course." "Good. Tomorrow, don't wear sneakers." "What? And get some sleep. You'll need the rest." Before she could ask more, he ended the call. She stared at the screen, confused, heart still aching, but now tinged with something else. A flicker of curiosity. Arjun was never impulsive. He thought through every move. So if he said he had a plan, he did. Still, as Maya lay down on the bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin, her mind drifted. She remembered the look in Derek's eyes, the smirk, the laughter. But she also remembered Arjun's tone just moments ago. Calm, focused. It stayed with her as she fell asleep. And though she didn't know exactly what tomorrow would bring, a part of her knew it would be nothing like today. The morning air was crisp, cool enough to bite at the skin, but Maya hardly noticed as she walked towards the dealership. She wasn't alone this time. Behind her, the low rumble of a car engine broke the quiet. She didn't turn around, but the sound was unmistakable. It was deep, powerful, a far cry from the modest cars she was used to. The black Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled up to the curb with a grace that seemed to demand attention without asking for it. The engine purred to a stop, and the driver's side door opened. Maya stepped out first, her dress flowing softly around her legs. The soft pink fabric, elegant but simple, contrasted sharply with the towering skyscrapers behind her and the glossy chrome of the luxury cars around her. Her heels clicked on the pavement as she stood still for a moment, feeling the weight of the moment. Then Arjun emerged from the other side of the car. Tall, composed, he was dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit that hugged his frame effortlessly. The man radiated confidence, but not the kind that screamed for attention. It was the quiet power of someone who didn't need to prove anything. His gaze swept the dealership, and for the briefest second, his eyes met Maya's. He nodded. Maya felt a quiet surge of something: pride, certainty, and maybe even a bit of wonder. She didn't know what was coming, but she knew this time would be different. As they made their way toward the showroom, the staff, who had been chatting and going about their business, stopped cold. It was as if the air had shifted, a weight settling over the room. Eyes turned, whispers began to ripple through the showroom. And then, it happened. Derek, the salesman who had humiliated her the day before, saw them. The smug look on his face faltered. He blinked, his mouth falling slightly open as he caught sight of Maya. And then, without thinking, he laughed. Not a polite laugh, but a genuine chuckle. A sound that was meant to dismiss, to belittle, as though this moment was a joke to him. Well, look who's back, Derek muttered under his breath. He took a step forward, preparing to greet her with his usual mockery. But then Arjun moved. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. His presence was enough. Derek froze, mid-step. The laughter stopped as if it had been snatched from his throat, leaving only silence in its wake. Maya, who had expected the same humiliation as the day before, felt a surge of defiance. The tension was palpable now, as all eyes turned to Arjun. His sharp, calculating gaze swept over the room, unfazed. The whispers started, soft at first, as people started to piece together who he was. Someone in the corner of the showroom quickly pulled out their phone, scrolling with rapid fingers. They glanced at the screen, their expression changing from casual curiosity to shock. The whispers grew louder. It's him, someone murmured. Arjun Mehra. He owns half the tech sector. Maya didn't know what that meant at first. She'd never been a part of his world of wealth and power, but she could see it now, how the atmosphere in the dealership shifted. The air became heavier, charged. Staff members exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier confidence turning into apprehension. Derek, who had once looked at Maya like she was invisible, now looked like he had seen a ghost. His face drained of color as he stared at Arjun, standing tall beside her. The arrogant salesman, who had never hesitated to belittle anyone, was suddenly unsure of every word that came to mind. His jaw tightened, but no apology came. Arjun's voice cut through the growing tension with a calm that only made it sharper. "Show me the one you liked," he said to Maya, his words simple but carrying the weight of a command. Maya nodded, walking with purpose toward the sleek, red convertible she had admired the day before. She could feel Derek's eyes on her, could feel the shift in the room as Arjun followed. The moment felt surreal, like she was watching herself from the outside. As they approached the car, Maya could feel Derek's gaze following them, but it wasn't the mocking stare it had been before. This time, there was something else in his eyes, fear, maybe, or disbelief. She didn't know, but she felt it, and it made her hold her head a little higher. Arjun stood by her side, arms folded across his chest, calm and composed. His presence alone seemed to silence the entire room. No one dared move or speak. Derek stood frozen, unsure of how to proceed, his professionalism slipping through his fingers like sand. "Is this the one you like?" Arjun's voice was quiet but firm, directed at Maya, though everyone could hear. Maya gave a small nod. Her heart pounded, but she didn't feel embarrassed this time. She didn't feel out of place. She felt something entirely different. A strange sense of power, of belonging in a place she once thought she had no right to be. The salesman hesitated before walking slowly over to them, his movement stiff. He forced a smile, though it was as fake as the luxury cars around them. "Of course. I'll get the paperwork started for you." His voice had lost its earlier arrogance, replaced by something more measured, almost nervous. Maya turned her head slightly, catching Arjun's eye. He looked at her, his expression unreadable, but there was something in the way his lips quirked upward, a silent reassurance. "It's all right," he said without speaking. His presence spoke volumes, as always. Behind them, another employee discreetly pulled out their phone again, this time to search for more details about Arjun. The information spread quickly. He owns multiple startups. He's a major investor in tech. He's worth billions. The whispers surged again, but this time, it wasn't fear. It was reverence. Arjun Mehra had just entered their world and changed it with a single step. Maya stood there, in the middle of it all, feeling a quiet surge of pride. The dealer's dismissive attitude had crumbled. All of it had shattered. Arjun's quiet strength had done what her words never could. The showroom was a far cry from the sterile, polished space it had been the day before. The tension in the air had shifted, thickened. It was as if the entire room was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. Maya and Arjun stood together, hand in hand, as they walked slowly down the aisle between rows of gleaming cars. Maya felt a quiet thrill as she looked around. The cars, each a symbol of luxury and status, no longer felt out of reach. They weren't dreams hanging just beyond her grasp. They were pieces of a new reality that Arjun was shaping. She stopped in front of the red convertible, the same car that had caught her eye the day before. Her heart fluttered as she ran a finger along the smooth curve of its body. "That one," she said softly, her voice steady now. "I want that one." Arjun didn't look at the car. His gaze was focused forward, his jaw set, his eyes never wavering. "We'll take it," he said, turning to the showroom manager, who was nervously watching the couple from the other side of the floor. The words left Arjun's mouth with quiet authority, but they had the weight of a declaration. And then, with a slight tilt of his head, Arjun added, "In fact, we'll take every car in the showroom." The room froze. The hum of conversation stopped as if a switch had been flipped. For a moment, it felt like time had slowed down. Salespeople glanced at one another in disbelief, unsure whether they had heard him correctly. Maya glanced at Arjun, but he wasn't looking at her anymore. His eyes were fixed on the manager, who seemed to shrink under his gaze. The chaos erupted after that, quickly, like the top of a pressure cooker snapping off. What? Derek, the salesman who had mocked Maya the day before, stammered as his eyes darted between Arjun and Maya. He couldn't seem to process what was happening. He had been so sure, so confident in his own superiority just a day ago. But now he didn't know whether to run or apologize. His face drained of color as the weight of Arjun's words settled around him. Maya could feel the shift, the quiet wave of power that surged through Arjun's calm declaration. The showroom buzzed with frantic movement, as salespeople scrambled to prepare paperwork, checking inventory, talking to their managers. But through all of the frantic noise and disarray, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced the day before: confidence. She had been out of place yesterday, humiliated, made to feel small. But now, standing here beside Arjun, everything had changed. Her spine straightened, her head held higher. She couldn't stop herself from smiling. It was subtle at first, a shift in her posture, but soon it was a full-on, radiant smile. She wasn't just a bystander in this moment anymore. She was part of something bigger. Arjun turned to her, as though sensing the shift in her energy. His gaze softened, though his face was still composed, focused. He didn't need to say much. "You deserved better yesterday," he murmured, his voice low, but sharp enough to slice through the frenzy surrounding them. "So today, you get everything." Maya blinked, a warmth spreading across her chest. She didn't need more than that. The weight of his words, the sincerity in them, was enough to make her feel like the world had tilted just slightly in her favor. The dealership's manager appeared before them, still trying to keep up with the whirlwind of activity. He was flustered, his hands trembling slightly as he shuffled through a stack of paperwork, trying to catch up to the pace Arjun had set. Behind them, another car door opened with a quiet swoosh, and a woman stepped into the showroom, moving with the purpose of someone who was no stranger to luxury. She was in a tailored suit, carrying a tablet in one hand. She didn't look at the chaos. She walked straight to Arjun and Maya, as though everything in the room had already been arranged and she was simply there to make it happen. "I've got everything ready," she said smoothly, her voice calm amidst the disarray. "Paperwork's being processed, and I'll handle the logistics. No need to worry about the details." Maya watched as Arjun nodded, his expression never changing. But there was something in his eyes, a hint of pride, maybe even a quiet satisfaction that Maya hadn't seen before. She realized, with a quiet shock, that he wasn't just controlling the situation. He was owning it. And in that moment, she realized something else. This wasn't just about cars. It wasn't about showing off wealth or power. It was about the quiet confidence Arjun exuded, the way he made everything fall into place without ever raising his voice or breaking a sweat. Reporters began arriving, seemingly out of nowhere. Phones clicked as they captured the scene unfolding in front of them. The buzz had gone viral faster than Maya could comprehend. It had started as a small social media post, someone in the showroom getting a quick picture of the billionaire and his wife, but within minutes, it exploded into something much bigger. Journalists started arriving, their eyes sharp, as they began to ask questions no one had expected to be answered. Arjun remained composed as always. He didn't flinch or look at the reporters. His attention was entirely on Maya. Maya felt a strange, almost surreal sense of calm as Arjun's assistant orchestrated the paperwork in the background. She glanced up at him again, and this time, there was no hesitation. He was with her, not just in this moment, but in every moment that had led up to it. I don't need any of this, she whispered to him as the chaos continued to unfold around them. Arjun's eyes met hers. I know, he said quietly, but you deserve it. For the first time in her life, Maya didn't feel out of place. She wasn't pretending to belong here. In this moment, she did. And when the paperwork was finally ready, Arjun turned to Derek, who stood off to the side, still frozen in place, unsure of what to do. He didn't need to say a word. Derek could see it in Arjun's eyes, the cold calm of a man who didn't need to prove anything. The entire showroom had been transformed in an instant. Not by the cars, or the reporters, or the frenzy of the salespeople, but by the quiet power of someone who had nothing left to prove. Arjun had moved with a confidence that left no room for doubt. And as Maya watched him, the weight of everything she had experienced came into sharp focus. This wasn't about the cars. This wasn't even about the dealership. This was about her, and about Arjun showing her that she was worthy, not just of the red convertible or the grand gesture, but of every piece of confidence, respect, and love she had ever been denied. Today, the world would know her name. But more importantly, she would finally know who she was. The showroom buzzed with the hum of reporters, cameras clicking, and whispers bouncing off the polished walls. The frenzy of the previous moments had settled into something quieter, more deliberate. Arjun stood off to the side, calm as ever, letting the chaos swirl around him. His eyes were fixed on Maya as she took a slow step forward, her heels clicking softly against the tile. The gaze of the room shifted with her movement, some curious, others calculating. But Maya was focused only on one person, Derek. He was trying to blend into the background, eyes darting nervously between the reporters and the door, as though he could escape from the spotlight he had never expected to be caught in. He had seen the cameras, seen Arjun's power and influence ripple through the room, but none of it compared to the quiet force Maya had within her now. She walked straight toward him, her steps confident and deliberate. Her dress, elegant and understated, seemed to glow in the dim lighting. With every step, she felt the weight of what she was about to do. This was her moment, not just for herself, but for every woman who had ever been overlooked or dismissed. When she reached him, Derek froze. His earlier bravado was nowhere to be found. His smug grin, the one that had mocked her just a day ago, was replaced by a tight-lipped expression. He swallowed hard, eyes shifting uncomfortably as he realized who was standing before him now. Maya's voice, calm and steady, broke the silence. You looked at my clothes yesterday, she began, her tone collected but sharp. And you saw someone small, someone who didn't belong here. Derek opened his mouth, but no words came out. His mind raced, but his tongue refused to cooperate. Maya continued, her gaze unwavering. But I've always been more than that. I've always had more to offer than what you could see on the outside. Derek's face turned pale, a flash of recognition dawning in his eyes. He had underestimated her, judged her, based on appearances alone. He opened his mouth again, the apology on the tip of his tongue, but Maya raised her hand, stopping him before he could speak. You don't owe me an apology, she said firmly. Her words cut through the air, sharp as a blade. You owe it to every woman you've ever dismissed. Every woman you've looked down on because she didn't fit your idea of worthy. Her voice was steady, but there was power in it, a force that could not be ignored. The room seemed to hold its breath. The cameras, previously flashing away at every moment, now focused entirely on her. Every reporter, every observer, felt the shift. Maya wasn't just confronting Derek. She was confronting every person who had ever been dismissed, belittled, or made to feel small based on appearance or class. Derek opened his mouth, trying to find the right words, but nothing came out. His face was blank, speechless. He could hardly process the gravity of the situation. Maya's words had struck him in a place he never anticipated. He had assumed his arrogance would go unchallenged, but now, it had all crumbled in an instant. Behind her, Arjun watched with a quiet intensity, his eyes soft, but full of pride. He had known Maya was capable of this. He had seen it in her, the quiet strength, the resilience. But it wasn't just for him that she was doing this. It was for herself, for every woman who had been silenced or overlooked, and for the person she had been before, someone who didn't yet see her own worth, but now, in this moment, was finding it. The manager of the dealership, who had been hovering nervously nearby, tried to step in, his smile stretched thin, clearly forced. He cleared his throat and approached them with a practiced air of friendliness, trying to steer the situation into safer waters. Ms. Maya, he began, his voice overly polite. We're so sorry for any misunderstandings earlier. We'd like to offer you VIP treatment, anything you need. Please, let us make it right. He gestured toward the luxurious lounge area and the more private offices in the back of the showroom. We have a special area for our distinguished guests. But Arjun didn't even glance at the manager. His attention was solely on Maya. His gaze was warm, almost proud, but there was no hint of indulgence in it. He didn't need the luxury or the show of opulence that the manager was offering. With a simple shake of his head, Arjun replied, his voice low but firm. We're not here for luxury. We're here for respect. The manager faltered, caught off guard by the bluntness of Arjun's words. He blinked a few times, trying to process what had just been said, but there was no mistaking the gravity in the billionaire's tone. Respect, not just for Maya, but for everyone who had ever been dismissed, had taken center stage. Maya felt a quiet wave of satisfaction as the manager quickly retreated, the forced smile slipping from his face. The energy in the room shifted again, and the air felt lighter somehow, as though the weight of the previous day's humiliation had been lifted. Derek, still speechless, stood frozen, his eyes darting from Maya to Arjun and back. The press had caught every moment of the confrontation, every word, every pause. It wasn't just a story about a wealthy man and his wife buying cars. It was a story about power, respect, and breaking free from judgment. Maya turned back to Arjun, her eyes meeting his. In his gaze, there was no pity or condescension, only support, admiration, and a quiet understanding that this moment, this victory, was hers. You did good, Arjun said softly, a rare, approving smile touching his lips. Maya returned his smile, but there was something different about her now. She was no longer the woman who had walked into this dealership feeling small, unnoticed, and uncertain. She was someone else, stronger, more confident, and finally aware of the power she held within. As the reporters moved to interview her, her heart was steady, her voice clear. She wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was claiming her place in a world that had long tried to make her feel invisible. And with each word, each action, she was showing everyone who had ever doubted her, who had ever doubted women like her, that they had been wrong. The showroom had emptied out, the chaos of the past few hours now a distant hum in the background. Maya stood at the center of the room, the paperwork completed, her hands clasping the keys to the red convertible. Arjun stood beside her, his usual calm demeanor unwavering. But there was something different in his eyes today. Pride, quiet pride in her, in the woman who had become everything she had once only dreamed of being. The crowd that had gathered to witness this scene had not expected it to unfold this way. The reporters, the onlookers, the salespeople, all of them had expected to see the billionaire flex his financial power, maybe make a statement of sorts, but they hadn't expected to see Maya, the woman who had been mocked the day before, take charge. With the keys in hand, Maya walked confidently toward the red convertible. The engine hummed with a low purr as she slid into the driver's seat, her fingers caressing the leather. It felt like the start of something new. For so long, she had lived in the background, dismissed, overlooked. But now, she was the one in control. She could feel the weight of the eyes on her, the murmurs of disbelief. But this time, they weren't dismissive. They were captivated. Arjun slid into the passenger seat beside her, his presence a calm, reassuring force. As the engine roared to life, the sound cut through the air, powerful and undeniable. The dealership's parking lot, once filled with expensive cars that belonged to the elite, now stood eerily still, save for the transport trucks moving slowly in the background. They were loading up the rest of the cars, every single vehicle in the showroom, ready to be whisked away. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a rush of exhilaration fill her. This was it. This was her moment. She wasn't just driving away with a car. She was driving away with her dignity, her power, and her place in the world. She revved the engine, feeling the vibrations beneath her. It was a small but significant act, a reclaiming of herself. The crowd had gone quiet, almost as though they were waiting for something. They were stunned, still processing what had just happened. The salespeople, who had been so eager to serve Arjun, now stared in disbelief as the woman they had so cruelly underestimated took the wheel. Before driving away, Maya turned the wheel slightly and glanced over her shoulder, locking eyes with Derek, the salesman who had once belittled her. His face was pale, his features stiff. He was standing at the edge of the showroom, his gaze fixed on her, a mix of confusion and regret playing across his face. Maya's lips curved into a calm, almost serene smile. She didn't need to shout or make a scene. This was the moment, the single sentence that would say everything. "Next time," she called out, her voice carrying clearly, cutting through the stillness of the lot. "Remember, kindness doesn't come with a price tag." Derek flinched, his expression faltering. It was a quiet truth, one that hit him harder than any grand gesture could. Maya didn't need his apology, nor did she need his validation. All she needed was for him, and everyone else who had doubted her, to understand that respect, kindness, and humanity were not things to be bought or sold. The words hung in the air, and Maya didn't wait for a response. She didn't need to hear anything else. She had already made her statement. With a final glance in the rearview mirror, she gently pressed the gas pedal, easing the car forward. The convoy of luxury vehicles, all purchased in the span of a few hours, followed behind in the tow trucks, a visual reminder of her triumph. The crowd that had been watching began to react, their phones raised high as they recorded the moment. The scene was unfolding before their eyes, an unforgettable display of power, resilience, and change. Maya smiled to herself, the weight of the moment finally sinking in. As they pulled out of the dealership's parking lot, the press swarmed, cameras flashing in quick succession. The excitement was palpable, but Maya didn't feel the need to acknowledge them. She wasn't driving for them. She was driving for herself. For all the women who had ever felt invisible. For everyone who had been overlooked and underestimated. The story began to spread online, almost instantly. The footage of Maya getting into the red convertible with Arjun beside her went viral. The images of the luxury cars being loaded onto transport trucks, the realization that this wasn't just a purchase, it was a statement, captured the world's attention. Headlines appeared across social media and news outlets, calling it the ultimate power move, or a statement of resilience. But Maya didn't need to read the headlines. She didn't need the validation of the world or the recognition from those who had once judged her. What mattered now was that she had seen herself. Finally, truly seen herself. As they drove through the city streets, Maya felt something shift within her. The car, this symbol of luxury and success, wasn't just an accessory or a show of wealth. It was an embodiment of everything she had fought for, everything she had worked through, and everything she had come to realize about herself. She glanced over at Arjun, who was sitting quietly beside her, his expression soft but proud. His presence was comforting, but Maya knew she had come into her own, and that the road ahead was hers to drive. As the convoy of cars snaked through the city, people on the sidewalk stopped and stared, their eyes wide as they watched the procession. Some took photos, others whispered in awe. Maya couldn't help but notice the way the world was shifting around her. The energy, the gaze, the respect. It had all changed. And in that moment, with the wind in her hair and the roar of the engine beneath her, Maya realized that she wasn't just driving away from a dealership. She was driving away from the person she had once been, the woman who had allowed herself to be invisible, underestimated, and dismissed, and into the woman she had become, confident, unapologetic, and fully alive. The sun was setting as they made their way through the streets, the final stretch of their journey ahead. Maya smiled to herself again. She was finally seen, finally respected. And she had only just begun. The world was watching. What had started as an intimate confrontation in a luxury car dealership had exploded into something far bigger, a statement that rippled through social media, news outlets, and viral platforms across the globe. The story of Maya's triumph, her quiet yet powerful stand against the salesman who had once dismissed her, spread like wildfire. Cut to clips flashing on the screen. News anchors sitting in sleek studios, wide-eyed and astounded, discussing the now infamous moment. One anchor, a seasoned journalist, shakes her head in disbelief. A woman who was once humiliated in a luxury car dealership is now the talk of the town. This is not just about wealth, it's about reclaiming your power, your dignity, and your right to be seen. On TikTok, millions of users are sharing snippets of the confrontation, including Maya's now iconic words to Derek. "Next time, remember, kindness doesn't come with a price tag." The short, impactful phrase is on repeat, playing across countless videos where users add their own stories of empowerment. The comments section is flooded with messages of admiration, with women from all walks of life claiming Maya as a symbol of strength, grace, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Across inspirational pages and social media feeds, the moment is replayed over and over. Maya's words are shared alongside hashtags like hashtag power of kindness, hashtag silent strength, and hashtag women rise. The viral wave isn't just about her defying a salesman. It's a broader call for respect, equality, and recognizing that every woman, no matter her background, deserves to be valued. Back at home, Maya sits quietly on the couch, her laptop open in front of her, scrolling through the flood of comments, reposts, and video reactions. She can't help but feel a mix of emotions, pride, disbelief, and something deeper, a sense of validation that had eluded her for so long. Her eyes well up with tears, but these are not tears of sorrow, they're tears of pride. For the first time, she feels seen, heard, and appreciated for the person she is, not the clothes she wears or the position she holds. The world, it seems, has finally acknowledged her strength. Arjun watches her from the doorway, his presence as steady as ever. He steps closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders in a gentle embrace. "You've always been priceless," he whispers in her ear, his voice warm and reassuring. Maya looks up at him, her eyes still glistening with unshed tears, but now there's a new kind of softness in them, a reflection of the strength that has always been within her. She turns to face him fully, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. She's overwhelmed, not just by the moment, but by the realization that everything she's been through has led to this, her transformation, her voice, and the incredible impact she now has on the world. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. She had never imagined that her small act of defiance would echo so loudly across the globe, but here she was, the center of a movement. In this quiet moment with Arjun, Maya knows that the journey is far from over. This isn't just about the viral fame. This is about using her newfound platform for something bigger, something that has always been at the back of her mind. The idea of helping others, of creating a space for women who had been as overlooked as she once was. She takes a deep breath, her fingers hovering over her phone. There's a message she wants to share, a message that reflects who she is now. With careful precision, she types out the words, "Never underestimate a woman with quiet strength." It's simple, yet it speaks volumes. With a tap of a button, she hits post, and the message goes live. Instantly, the response is overwhelming. Comments flood in, some from strangers, some from friends who have watched her growth, all echoing the same sentiment. Maya's strength is not only inspiring, it's life-changing. But Maya knows this is just the beginning. She's not done yet. The screen shifts, and we see Maya standing in front of a new building, a modest but beautiful space filled with energy and purpose. It's the launch of her charity for underprivileged women. The sign on the door reads, "Empower Her Foundation." Maya stands there, dressed in simple but elegant attire, surrounded by women from all walks of life. Women who have been given the chance to thrive, to discover their own quiet strength. Inside, women are receiving mentorship, education, and resources to help them step into their own power. It's a space where they can reclaim their voices, their worth, and their place in the world. Maya knows what it's like to feel small, to be overlooked, but now she's giving back in a way that matters, in a way that will leave a lasting impact. The camera pans out as Maya walks through the foundation's doors, her face alight with purpose. She shakes hands with a young woman who has just enrolled in one of the programs. There's laughter, there are hugs, and most of all, there's a sense of hope in the air, a hope that Maya has sparked, a hope that will continue to grow and multiply. As the montage plays, we see glimpses of Maya in various settings. Speaking at events, meeting with influential leaders, and working with the women she's helping. She's no longer just a symbol of defiance, she's become a beacon of change. Her journey has transcended the viral moment, evolving into something far more profound. The final scene shows Maya standing on a balcony, looking out over the city. The wind plays with her hair as she smiles to herself, knowing that she has not just gained wealth, she has gained something far more precious, a voice. If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. Also, let us know where you're watching from and drop your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of Maya's quiet strength and how Arjun, her devoted husband, stood by her side? Were you as shocked as Derek when he realized he had underestimated her? Moments like these remind us never to judge too quickly. We love hearing your thoughts, so share your favorite part in the comments.